The champagne glass shattered against the marble wall.
I hate you!
Get out! Aaliyah Kingston screamed. Marcus didn't move. You don't mean that. She laughed, a broken, sharp sound. I transferred $50 million into your startup yesterday. And today I find out you've been meeting my financial advisor behind my back? Marcus straightened his suit. I was protecting our future. Our future. Her eyes burned. Or your exit plan? Silence. That silence told her everything. The fourth man. The fourth betrayal. First was the fitness influencer who live-streamed her private jet accidentally. Second was the politician who asked about asset consolidation before asking about children. Third was the church boy who secretly studied divorce settlements of billionaire women. And now Marcus, he didn't deny it. You're worth over $1 trillion, he finally said. You expect men not to think about it? She stepped back like he'd slapped her. I expected love. Marcus grabbed his coat. Love doesn't ignore numbers that big. When the door closed behind him, the penthouse felt colder than ever. She stood alone in 98 floors of glass and gold. Grocery chains in 42 countries. Shopping malls in Dubai, London, Singapore. Car dealerships selling everything from Teslas to Ferraris. Billion-dollar skyscrapers in New York, Sydney, Lagos. And yet, she had no one. Her phone buzzed. News alerts about her Tokyo acquisition. Another billion added to her empire. She turned it off. Then she did something reckless. She opened her laptop and searched. Largest slum near me. Her assistant nearly fainted the next morning. You want to go where? Off the grid, Aaliyah said calmly. You're on every financial magazine cover. Then take them down. You have security. They're not coming. You'll be recognized. Not if I stop looking like this. 2 weeks later, Aaliyah Kingston disappeared from public view. The media believed she was expanding into European infrastructure. Instead, she stood at the edge of the largest slum in the city, wearing a plain shirt and worn sandals. No makeup. No diamonds. No bodyguards. Just her. Children ran barefoot past her. Women bargained loudly. Men pushed broken carts stacked with fruit. Nobody bowed. Nobody stared. Nobody whispered about stock prices. For the first time in her adult life, she was invisible, and it felt terrifying and freeing. Then she saw him. He was arguing with a supplier. You're overcharging, he said firmly. I'm surviving, the supplier snapped. So am I, he replied. But I won't cheat people to do it. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. The supplier rolled his eyes and walked away. The man turned, noticing her watching. What? He asked lightly. Nothing. You're not from here. She stiffened. Is it that obvious? You're standing like someone who's never had to fight for space. She crossed her arms. And you? He grinned. I've fought for everything. He owned a tiny grocery kiosk, wood panels nailed together, stocked with basics. How much for water? She asked. For you? Free. Why? You look like today punched you. Her throat tightened. No one had asked about her feelings in years. I can pay, she insisted. Didn't say you couldn't. She placed coins on the counter anyway. What's your name? He asked. Ollie. Daniel. She nodded. Nice to meet you. Come back tomorrow, he said casually. Water's better when you're not crying. She froze. I'm not crying. Sure, he smiled gently. That night she couldn't sleep. Not because of Marcus, but because of Daniel. He didn't ask what she did for a living. He didn't ask where she lived. He didn't ask about money. He just asked if she was okay. She returned the next day, and the next days turned into weeks. I'm between jobs, she told him once. He shrugged. That's temporary. I rent a small room nearby. Then you're stronger than most. I don't trust easily. Good, he said. Don't trust me yet. Let me earn it. No contracts. No prenuptial jokes. No financial curiosity. Just steady presence. One afternoon, rain poured hard. Her sandals slipped in the mud. Daniel grabbed her before she fell. You okay? Yes. He didn't let go immediately. The electricity between them wasn't about wealth. It was about safety. She realized something dangerous was happening. She was falling. And this time, she had no idea if the man in front of her wanted her heart, or something else entirely. If this story is already pulling you in, subscribe to Story Vault right now. Because this is only the beginning. Daniel noticed the way she watched people, not like someone judging them, like someone studying survival. You think too much, he said one evening as they closed his kiosk. And you don't think enough, she replied. He laughed. Thinking doesn't fill stomachs. Neither does pretending you don't want more. He paused. That was the first time she saw something shift behind his eyes. "And what do you think I want?" he asked quietly. "More than this," she said, gesturing at the wooden stall that he leaned against the counter. "Wanting more isn't the same as selling your soul for it." The words hit harder than he knew. That night she couldn't stop replaying it. Selling your soul. Marcus had done that. All of them had. But Daniel? He walked home in worn shoes and still gave half his leftover food to a widow down the street. Weeks passed. They began eating together. Talking longer. Arguing sometimes. "Why don't you leave?" she asked one afternoon. "You're smart. You could build something bigger." "And abandon them?" he said, nodding toward the children playing nearby. "You can't save everyone." "I'm not trying to. I'm trying to not forget where I came from." She stared at him. "And where is that?" He smiled faintly. "Lower than here." She felt something tighten in her chest. For the first time, she wasn't the strongest person in the room. And she liked it. One evening, a black SUV drove slowly past the slum. Her heart jumped. Daniel noticed. "You expecting someone?" "No," she said too quickly. The SUV continued driving, but her chest stayed tight. The board had been calling nonstop. The Singapore merger. The Australian infrastructure contract. The Lagos skyscraper approval. She ignored all of it, until the day everything collided. It happened fast. 3 black SUVs entered the slum at once. Men in suits stepped out. The neighborhood went silent. Daniel stepped in front of her instinctively. "Stay behind me." Her throat closed. One of the men approached, lowering his head respectfully. "Miss Kingston," he said carefully. "We've been searching everywhere. The emergency acquisition requires your signature." Daniel turned slowly. "Kingston?" The name fell like a bomb. She closed her eyes. "It's not what it looks like." "You're Aaliyah Kingston?" he asked, voice hollow. Children were staring now. Neighbors whispering. "The Trillionaire?" Someone muttered. She stepped forward. "Daniel, I was going to tell you." "When?" His voice cracked. "After what?" "After you decided I passed the poverty test." "It wasn't a test." "Then what was it?" "Research. Charity tourism." His words sliced deep. "I came here because I was tired of being used," she shouted. "I needed someone who didn't see dollar signs. And you didn't trust me with the truth." Tears streamed down her face. She hadn't cried like this since she built her first grocery chain at 19. "I was scared," she whispered. Daniel's jaw tightened. "You should have trusted me." He stepped back, not impressed, not dazzled. Hurt. That hurt scared her more than greed ever could. The SUVs waited. The entire slum watched. She turned to the suited man. "Give me 24 hours. Miss the board." 24. They nodded reluctantly and returned to the vehicles. Daniel walked away. She followed him. "Please," she begged. He stopped but didn't turn around. "Was any of it real?" he asked. "Yes." "All of it?" "Yes." He finally faced her. "Do you know what it feels like to realize the woman you're falling for owns buildings worth more than your entire existence?" She shook her head slowly. "No," he said softly. "You don't." Silence stretched. "I never cared about your money," he continued. "But you decided I couldn't handle your truth." She stepped closer. "I thought if you knew, you'd change." "And you didn't?" he asked quietly. That question crushed her, because yes, she had changed. She had become smaller here. Softer. More honest. "Daniel, I love you." The words slipped out before she could stop them. His eyes widened slightly. But he didn't say it back. Instead, he said something unexpected. "If you love me, then prove it." "How?" "Don't run back to your towers tomorrow. Stay. No assistance. No board. Just you." Her phone vibrated again. She turned it off. "I'll stay," she said. He studied her face for a long moment. "Then we start there." The neighborhood buzzed for hours after. Some people looked at her differently now. Curiosity, suspicion, awe. But Daniel treated her the same. Almost. There was distance now. And she felt it. If you think this is where the story ends, you're wrong. The real storm hasn't even started yet. Subscribe to Story Vault now, because what Daniel is hiding will change everything. The next morning, Aaliyah woke up on the thin mattress in the small rented room she had been using. No penthouse view. No skyline. Just sunlight pushing through cracked curtains. Her phone had over 200 missed calls. Board members. Legal advisors. International partners. She ignored every single one. When she stepped outside, the neighborhood was already buzzing. People stared, not the way they used to. Now they knew. Daniel was fixing a broken shelf at his kiosk. He didn't look at her immediately. "You stayed," he said finally. I said I would. He nodded once. Good. That was it.no dramatic embrace.no apology, just cautious progress. Hours passed in silence between them. Then the problem came. A group of local loan sharks arrived, loud and aggressive. You're late, one of them barked at a fruit vendor. I told you I need more time, the vendor pleaded. Daniel stepped forward. Back off. The leader smirked. This isn't your fight. It is when you bully people. The man shoved him, hard, Aaliyah gasped. Daniel. He stumbled but didn't fall. You think because she's rich now you're untouchable? The loan shark sneered. Maybe we should charge protection fees. Something inside Aaliyah snapped. She stepped forward. How much does he owe? She asked. The men laughed. You planning to buy the whole street? Yes, she said coldly. The leader named an outrageous number. She transferred it instantly. His phone buzzed. His expression changed. You paid? Yes. She stepped closer. Now you'll leave. And you'll never return. He hesitated. Daniel grabbed her wrist gently. Don't. They were hurting him. And now you've marked this place, Daniel said quietly. The men backed off, but not before giving Daniel a long, calculating look. When they left, he turned to her. This is what I was afraid of. What? That I can solve problems. That you'll try to solve everything with money. She stared at him. They would have hurt you. I've handled worse. Why won't you let me protect you? His eyes darkened. Because I don't want to become another man standing behind your wealth. That hit deeper than she expected. I don't see you that way. But the world does. Silence fell between them again. That evening, she followed him as he delivered groceries to elderly residents. No cameras, no press, no assistants. Just service. You don't have to prove anything, she said softly. I'm not proving, he replied. I'm living. They stopped near an old school building falling apart. This place used to educate hundreds, he said. Now look at it. She studied the cracked walls. Why don't you fix it? He glanced at her. With what money? She hesitated. Let me invest, she said carefully. Not donate. Invest. We build it together. He didn't respond immediately. Then he asked something strange. If you lost everything tomorrow, who would you be? The question caught her off guard. I don't know, she admitted. He nodded slowly. That's dangerous. Why? Because when wealth defines you, losing it destroys you. She swallowed. You talk like someone who's experienced that. A shadow flickered across his face. For a long time, he said quietly, I had nothing. She reached for his hand. This time, he didn't pull away. Days turned into a fragile piece. She reduced her visible involvement. No more SUVs. No more suited messengers. But something shifted. Daniel began receiving phone calls he didn't answer near her. He'd step away. Lower his voice. Return calm. Too calm. One night, she confronted him. Who keeps calling you? No one important. That's not an answer. It's enough. She narrowed her eyes. Are you hiding something? He held her gaze. Yes. Her heart stopped. But not what you think. Then what? Timing matters. Timing, she whispered. You demanded honesty from me. And you'll get mine. When? Soon. That word echoed long after he left. The next afternoon, something unexpected happened. A news alert flashed across the slum televisions in a small electronics shop. Global financial system experiences mysterious liquidity shift. Markets fluctuated wildly. International banks scrambled. Aaliyah froze. This wasn't random. This was controlled. She felt it in her bones. Daniel stood beside her, watching the screen calmly. Too calmly. Strange, he murmured. She turned to him slowly. You understand global liquidity models. He smiled faintly. More than you know. Her stomach tightened. The man who ran a wooden kiosk spoke like someone who controlled economies. If you think Aaliyah is the only one with secrets, you're not ready for what's coming. Subscribe to Story Vault now, because in the next part of the story, the truth about Daniel will begin to crack open. The news kept flashing red across every small television in the electronics shop. Global markets were shaking, European indexes dipping, Asian currencies fluctuating. Australian Federal Reserves issuing emergency statements. Aaliyah's instincts screamed. This wasn't panic. This was orchestration. She slowly turned to Daniel. You're not surprised. He kept his eyes on the screen. Should I be? Billions don't move like that without a conductor. And you think there's a conductor? I know there is. He finally looked at her. And you think it's me? Her heart pounded. I think you know something. He didn't deny it. That silence again. The same silence Marcus had given her. But this felt different, not guilty measured. Walk with me, Daniel said quietly. They left the shop. The slum buzzed with rumors, but Daniel walked calmly, hands in his pockets. Tell me something, he began. How much are you worth exactly? You know the estimates. Tell me. She hesitated. 1.3 trillion. And that number gives you power? Yes. Over corporations? Yes. Over governments? Sometimes. He nodded slowly. What if I told you there's a number so large it makes trillions look small? She frowned. That doesn't exist. It does. They stopped near the abandoned school building. His voice lowered. Have you ever heard of shadow liquidity institutions? Yes, she said immediately. Private global funds. Untouchable reserves. Economic stabilizers. And destabilizers, he added softly. Her breathing slowed. Daniel, she whispered. Who are you? He studied her face for a long moment. Do you trust me? The irony almost made her laugh. I chose you over my empire, she said. Answer the question. Instead of speaking, he pulled out a phone she had never seen before. It wasn't cheap, it wasn't cracked, it was secure. Military-grade encrypted. He typed a short code. Within seconds, global financial dashboards appeared. Not public ones, deep metrics, central bank reserves, global commodity positioning, sovereign wealth allocations. Her vision blurred. How do you have access to this? He turned the screen toward her. At the top was a title. World Stability Tier Primary Controller. D. A. Rowan. Her stomach dropped. Rowan, she breathed. My full name is Daniel Alexander Rowan. She stepped back slightly. Who is D. A. Rowan? He held her gaze. The custodian. Custodian of what? He exhaled slowly. Of a global reserve valued in quintillions. Her mind rejected the number. That's impossible. No, he said gently. It's simply invisible. She shook her head. Quintillions? That's beyond national GDP totals. It's not owned, he corrected. It's controlled. By who? By me. The world went silent around her. You run a grocery kiosk. I manage global liquidity corridors. You live in a rented room. I have access to vaults that can freeze economies. Her chest tightened. You're joking. He shook his head. A century ago, several ultra-elite financial architects created a stabilization reserve after the Great Depression. It evolved. It expanded. Quietly. It now backs currencies without public acknowledgement. And you control it? I'm the appointed custodian. Appointed by who? Those who came before me. Her voice trembled. How much? Enough to buy every corporation on Earth. Twice. She stared at him. You're richer than me. Yes. Richer than every billionaire alive. Yes. And you sell bottled water? I don't sell water, he said calmly. I observe humanity. She felt dizzy. All this time, she whispered. You were testing me, he said softly. Her eyes snapped up. What? You hid your wealth to find someone who wouldn't chase it. Her heart began racing. And you? I did the same. The realization crashed over her. You knew who I was? From the first week. How? Your posture. Your language. The way you assess risk before crossing a street. You said nothing. Neither did you. Tears burned her eyes. You let me think you were poor. You let me think you were powerless. The weight of it pressed between them. I needed to know, he continued, if you loved a man with nothing. And I needed to know if you loved a woman without money. They both fell silent. The air shifted. So the market shift today, she said slowly. A recalibration, he replied. A test. Of what? Of whether you would run back to your empire. Her heart pounded. You manipulated global markets to test me? I adjusted flows. Nothing catastrophic. That's insane. It's responsibility. She laughed bitterly. You judged me for using money to solve problems. And you judged me for not wanting more. The tension between them exploded. You had no right, she shouted. Neither did you, he shot back, silence, raw, breathing heavy. You're not the only powerful person here, he said quietly. I never wanted to be, she whispered. For the first time since she met him, she felt small, not because of wealth, because of truth. That if you thought Aaliyah was the most powerful person in this story, think again. But the final decision hasn't been made yet. Subscribe to Story Vault now, because in the final part of the story, one choice will determine whether love survives power. The wind moved through the broken windows of the abandoned school building. Neither of them spoke. Point two empires stood face to face. Point one public. Point one invisible. You orchestrated global liquidity to test me, Aaliyah said slowly. I adjusted pressure points, Daniel replied calmly. You could destabilize countries. I prevent wars. She stared at him. You live in a slum. I live where I remember who I am. Her voice cracked. Why here? Why pretend? Because power without humility becomes corruption. And you think I'm corrupt? I think you're afraid. That struck deep. I built everything from nothing, she shot back. I fought men twice my age in boardrooms. I survived betrayal 4 times. Don't call me afraid. You're terrified, he said softly, stepping closer. Not of losing money. Of losing control. The words hit like a blade. Silence. Her mind replayed everything. Marcus, the influencer, the politician, the church boy. Every man who saw numbers instead of her. I came here to escape being valued for my wealth, she whispered. And I came here to escape being feared for mine, he answered. Her eyes widened. Feared? You think governments shake because of press releases? They shake because of silent reserves. He paused. When you control quintillions, you don't chase status. You manage consequences. She swallowed. And you chose me? Yes. Why? Because you were the only trillionaire who walked into poverty without cameras. Tears slid down her cheeks. And you were the only man who didn't flinch when I paid off those loan sharks, she said quietly. He smiled faintly. I flinched. She almost laughed, almost. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She asked. Because I needed to know if you loved Daniel. Not D.A. Rowan. Yes. And now? Now I need to know if you love both. The question hung heavy. She stepped closer. You manipulated markets. Yes. You watched me struggle with my board. Yes. You knew every time I doubted myself. Yes. And you still stayed? Yes. Her voice trembled. Why? Because when you thought I was nothing, you still chose me. Her breathing became uneven. And when you thought I was poor, you stayed in this slum for me, he continued. You ignored trillion-dollar deals. She looked at him fully now. 2 people who could bend economies, standing in a broken building. So what happens now? She whispered. He took a slow breath. I can merge our influence. She frowned. Merge? Your public empire. My invisible reserve. That would make us the most powerful financial force in modern history. She stepped back slightly. That's dangerous. Yes. And tempting. Yes. But that's not what you really want, is it? He asked gently. She hesitated. Then she shook her head. I don't want to rule the world. What do you want? I want peace. I want honesty. I want to wake up without wondering if the man next to me calculated my value. He stepped closer. And I want someone who looks at me without seeing global leverage. Silence. Then she asked the most important question. If you lost it all tomorrow, the quintillions, the reserve, everything. He didn't hesitate. I'd open a grocery store. She laughed through tears. Seriously. I'm serious, he said. Because I was raised to understand money is a tool. Not identity. She searched his face. And if I lost everything? I'd build with you. From scratch. Yes. In a slum. If necessary. She studied him for a long moment. Then she did something neither of them expected. She extended her hand. No mergers, she said. No hidden tests, he agreed. No manipulation. No deception. Just us. Just us. He took her hand. Not as D.A. Rowan. Not as custodian of quintillions. Just Daniel. Weeks later, the world noticed something strange. Aaliyah Kingston declined a historic merger. Markets stabilized without explanation. The slum's abandoned school reopened. Funded quietly, structured sustainably, no publicity. And Daniel's kiosk. It stayed. People whispered about the trillionaire who fell in love in a slum. They never knew the bigger truth. That she had fallen for a man richer than imagination. And he had. Chosen her over control of the world. One evening, back at the kiosk, Daniel pulled out a simple ring. No diamonds. No spectacle. I don't care if you're worth trillions, he said softly. You were enough when I thought you had nothing. She smiled through tears. And you were enough when I thought you had nothing. He slipped the ring onto her finger. No headlines. No announcements. Just love. But here's the real question. If you discovered the person you loved secretly controlled more wealth than every billionaire combined, would you feel secure or intimidated? Comment below. And if this story kept you glued till the end, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Story Vault, and turn on notifications. Because the next story might be even more shocking. Because sometimes the richest people in the world are the ones who never need to prove it.